Coach's Corner with Mike Poeta, not only the coach of the Fighting Illini, but now the proud father of a third place finisher in the IKWF, Rylan Poeta. Right, let's make it is what it is, coach. Enjoy that moment. But, we're going to get to him later on in the blonde hair and the whole thing. But, let's talk about the Big Ten tournament. What a week for the Fighting Illini and your team and yourself. And, let's hear it, Mike. Let it rip, man. Talk about that Big Ten tournament in Maryland.
Well, I think in most wrestling tournaments, and especially one where it's season ending, your season's on the line. There's a lot of highs and a lot of lows. I mean, you see guys where there's a dream come true, and then you see it the other side of where their dreams they're getting crushed. They're getting crushed and they hurt. So you look at one side, like you're really happy for Edmond Ruth. He's on cloud 9. He feels great about himself, but now it's time to turn around and focus on 2 weeks from now. But then you have got other guys that are hurting right now. So it's a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, and touching on that real quick, I mean, that's a great point, Mike. And that's why, rather than just have something scripted, to get your feelings on that, because you've seen that the whole tournament. It's the toughest tournament in the country, and you see so many dreams broken there, right? But, I start to look around and I see how many bids come out of there, right? And then I'm looking at the other tournaments and I'm like, oh, these guys get 3, these guys get 2, Big Ten gets 10. And I think that's an important thing to touch on is how tough that tournament actually is. Some believe it's tougher than the one coming up in 2 weeks. Is that the sentiment around the Big Ten, Coach?
Yeah, I think it's a similar vibe of where historically people will say that the world championships are harder to win than the Olympics. It's because you have more guys you have to get through at the world championships. And I think where the Big Ten starts getting tougher than the NCAA's is the NCAA's. If you're a high seed, you can't take anybody lightly, but you almost have a warm-up match, kind of. Let's say you can ease into the tournament a little bit. Just out the gates, first match. You don't have one of the best guys in the country. And at the Big Tens, that first round in the morning, you're going to have someone that's one of the best guys in the country, if not the best guy in the country, like right away out the gates. So I do think it's tougher than the NCAA tournament. Illinois has had a lot of NCAA champions that were not the Big Ten champions just 2 weeks prior. So that's been a thing for Illinois. That's been a thing for a lot of teams. So the Big Ten is it's a grinder. And we wrestled some really good guys Saturday morning out the gates. We got, for example, like we'll just go into Edmond Ruth. You got Edmond out right away. He's got someone like Rocco Welsh. He's wrestling him at 11 in the morning. A guy that when Strachey got hurt, Flow Wrestling is putting out the guys that they think could win the NCAAs, and Rocco Welsh is a name that they say. And Edmond's wrestling him at 11, 12 o'clock in the morning of the Big Ten's day one.
He looked really, really good. His finishes are emphatic, but his dance moves are even better. What possessed him? I thought it was genius because the whole arena was behind him.
Yeah, that was like completely organic. He had nothing planned. I know that. He wasn't even sure if they wanted him to come out the tunnel, get his hand raised, or what they wanted once he found out that Griffith wasn't wrestling. And they said, well, do you want to go out the tunnel? And the kind of personality Edmond has, when they gave him the option, he said yes immediately. He wanted the whole show of doing that because he hasn't really had one yet. And when he walked out on the mat, he's waiting to get his hand raised, and there was just kind of this awkwardness of there was no ref out there with him. The commentator wasn't getting, or the announcers weren't getting any of the matches started. And I think he just said, "All right, this gives me something to do right now instead of just standing here awkwardly in front of the crowd." So he started dancing, and honestly, the entire crowd started cheering for him. It united. Let's say even Penn State, Iowa fans, and these fans that have been barking at each other for a pretty long time throughout the past 2 days. Everybody was kind of in agreement of, man, this kid's having a good time. This is pretty funny. We're enjoying this. There's class about it. People can do things like that, and it could come across very cocky, very, let's say, egotistical, classless, and Edmond, those words are not part of who he is. And so I think it came out just very, very genuine, and people liked it. So, and then when he walked off, he was like, "Man, coach, I think I might have embarrassed myself. Should I have done that?" I'm like, "No, I mean that was good. That wasn't. I would be the first one to tell you to like calm it down or let's not do it. But that was okay. That was appropriate. I'm cool with that."
Yeah, I thought that was perfect. And the thing is, when you listen to it on the video and when I listened to it on the stream, you could hear the Illinois voices start. The fans in the crowd from Illinois, and they were loud that whole tournament. It was beautiful to hear. And I know Brian was there. He was loud, and everyone else. And you could pick out particular voices too. So I could hear Brian's voice. What did
Yeah.
you think of your fan support?
Well, obviously, you know that the parents are going to make their way out there to support their kids. We had a lot of people who are in Champaign, big fans of the program. They come to practice a lot, and they made the 11-hour drive out there. So it was the support. We're extremely grateful for it. It made us feel really good that people were willing to travel 11 hours in a car to be up in the stands rooting for us. Before I forget, though, I thought Edmond's quote when he was getting interviewed after he won was really good. And I don't know where Edmond heard it. I've never heard him say it. And I'm not sure if it just was his own thing, but he said everybody went to bed last night dreaming about being the Big Ten champ, or everybody, let's say, went to bed before the start of this tournament dreaming of being the Big Ten champ, and they're still laying in bed, and I got to actually get up and do it, and how good it feels. And I thought that was just like a beautiful, beautiful quote for him to say.
It was a special moment for him too, right? He's lived in his brother's shadows for a little bit. The Penn State faithful were all there, and then Edmond wins, the Big Ten tournament, and it had to feel great for him in that moment as well. And another family Big Ten title for the Ruths, right? You know, but coach, the thing that I started thinking about is, okay, so Carter Sriracha doesn't wrestle. He's going to get an at-large bid, which he did, but we've talked about seeding in the past, right? So Edmond wins the Big Ten tournament. Where do you see Edmond before they release the bracket tonight? Where do you see Edmond falling in this thing because of that? It's got to work in
Oh,
his favor.
yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Edmond I I I think he put together a season that hasn't really been recognized as well as it should be. Um like all the top guys, I mean, he's beaten the majority of them. He beat the Harvard kid, he beat the Penn kid, he's beat Rocco Welsh twice. I know I'm forgetting some names, but he's taken out most of the top guys. So I think he's going to be seated fairly high. I really don't. I don't know exactly. It's going to be a surprise to me. It's going to be a surprise where they put Strachey, where they put Griffith. With the Griffith match, I actually really wanted it to happen because I think it's a good matchup for Edmond. Like I wanted that match to happen. I actually sometimes as a wrestler hearing that you're getting a forfeit, I think deep down the human side of you is okay with it, is happy. Like, okay, in that situation, I got a Big Ten title now. I know the tough guy will be saying in the interview, I wanted the match, or saying it to other people, I wanted that match. I don't want it like this. And there's part of Edmond that is like that also. But I think Edmond truly wanted to wrestle Griffith. I think he knows that's someone that he had some confidence behind that he would get him. But as far as where like Griffith, Strachey are going to be seated, I really have no idea. You see on social media the uproar in people not getting bids, and you hear a lot of complaining, a lot of this isn't right. So I have no idea what the committee is going to do.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in real quick and first off say that I think he's going to be a 3 seed. I think that's most likely in my mind, but like you said, it's up to what the coaches do as far as Srirachi and Griffith. I think they're 4 and 5 or worse, just because they're coming off of losses, and Edmond's a Big Ten champ. But I wanted to talk next about my other guy, Pucino. I mean, this fellow, he wrestled Cal Miller from Maryland last year and got beat, and that kept him out of the tournament. He gets the same guy the first day, the first morning, and he does the job. What did you think of that?
He looked great in that match. I know he was nervous about it because Miller is really tough.
Yeah.
Um, And so I know Danny knew that it was going to be a really hard match and he was going to have to really bring it. And he did a great job with that in that match. And I think that rolled into taking some positives from a loss in the next match with Woods. You could look at it as he put Real to his back. He took him down, and he was probably 2 to 3 seconds away from taking him down again towards the end of the second period, right at the end of the second period. So there's a lot of positives to draw from that. I think Real is incredibly tough. Like out of everyone at 49, and what's kind of funny is me and Pucino were talking about this after the match, and I look over my shoulder. Me and Pucino are talking like right here, and I look over my shoulder, and Real is like his head is basically in our conversation. He was walking right behind us, and we were talking about that Real and that match. But I was saying how just genuinely tough I think Real Woods is. I think out of all those top guys, there's something inside Real that has more toughness. And the way that Danny cement mixed Real to his back, I don't think any of the other 41 pounders, including ones that beat Real at the tournament or have beaten him this year, I don't think they would have gotten off their back. There's something deep down about Real that he like nobody like has these guts and these other things I want to describe him as. Like they just don't have it. So I think Danny settles in and pins any other 41 pounder that's in that situation with what he did. I think Real's the only one that has a chance of getting off his back in that situation. So
Yeah.
just bringing
Well,
it back to
Danny was planking on him. He had his both feet in the air. It was I'm going to show that video right here because it was pretty awesome to watch, and I thought he was going to pin him too.
Yeah, he was straight like this. The only other thing that the only other person I've ever seen like that is Kyle Snyder when he was trying to knock a chest lock by Sajalayev, where his body was just straight across like that because he was making himself as heavy as his body could be to not get flipped over. And Danny was doing the same thing. But that's where I go to. I don't know if anyone else would have gotten off their back other than Real Woods, including both guys that were in the finals.
That's a great point, Coach, because and then Danny wrestles the next couple matches, and I'm not trying to go backwards, but Danny had a really tough Big Ten tournament last year, and this year he comes in with a different mindset, and he's going to Kansas City, right? Even before the tournament started, he made that up in his mind, and it was just a pleasure to see, and super happy for Danny and what he's accomplished this year and how his season ended last year, and it's kind of what you talked about, right? Like people are getting disappointed, and you see dreams broken and dreams made, but Danny's was made this weekend, and how important that is not only for Danny, but also for your program to get him there.
Yeah, but I don't think Danny's satisfied at all. Like at the end of the day, this is a qualifying tournament, but winning a Big Ten title, doing really really well at the Big Tens is a big deal. Um, uh, so Danny got himself into the tournament. Everybody 0-0. Again, records don't matter, seeds don't matter. He's gotten to the next step. He's putting himself in a place where the dream of being a national champ or the dream of being an All-American can now actually happen because he's in the tournament. But I know Danny is not satisfied with taking 8th place. I know he wants more than that. So it is you check the box of a goal of getting to the national tournament, being a national qualifier, but I know he is not even close to being satisfied. I do think 41 in the Big Ten is arguably the toughest weight in the Big Ten. I mean, Greg actually probably would know off the top of his head quicker than I could, but it has to have five of the top 7 ranked guys, 5 of the top 9, 8, 9 ranked guys. It is incredibly deep. With insanely good wrestlers, and those names. If you just go Mendez, Bartlett, Real, Hardy, like names like that. I mean, those are cream of the crop in college wrestling. But I think Danny Bronigo. I was just talking to him before I came up here. I think Danny Pucino is just as talented as those guys. It's a matter of like I've said this to Pucino and a lot of guys on the team where I think you would be really surprised if you could get into my head or the other coach's head and see how much we believe in you. I think it would actually surprise you. And I believe in Danny Pucino's wrestling, and I'll put it up against anybody in the country. So just a little bit more of, I think, a belief system with Pucino, and he could be right in the mix with those guys. And now talking about dreams next weekend of national champ, All-American, it's absolutely inside that guy. But you got
Yeah,
to
and
wait. You
I
got to
think
wake up
what you
like
said.
Edmond. You got to wake up like Edmond said, and you got to be the one that does it. Not just
I think
dreams on it.
that match with Real Woods, shows Danny he belongs, right? It's not just the wins, but there he was with arguably the best guy in the country on any given day, and he's right there with him. So that's great. But let's talk about your other national qualifier real quick, and freshman Chris Moore. He gets into what we would call essentially a blood round match with someone that has beaten him twice, and the third time's a charm, coach. So walk us through that.
I think Chris's performance over the weekend was very special. The guts and courage and heart that Chris showed was unbelievable. Uh, it's underrated how good his defense is. It's underrated how hard you are going to have to work to take him down, because people had Chris Moore in positions that wrestlers don't get out of, and Chris Moore got out of it. And a lot of that is just never quitting, continuing to wrestle, and then also just being great technically and really smart in those positions. And Chris did that often, and that won him a lot of matches. He's right there with Cam Amin in the morning. Cam's a multiple time All-American, and Chris lost the match really like going for it. It was overtime. His back was to the edge. He had already been warned for stalling, so he was just really nervous. You can't play with fire in those situations, and he sent it. He tried to launch Amin, and he went down. He went down swinging. If he would have taken one more step backwards and then tried to throw, probably would have been a little smarter. Where now, if he doesn't get it, he's totally out of bounds, and he has a chance to get it and keep his foot in. But he's a true freshman. He's wrestling a guy that beat Alex Marinelli in the quarters a couple years ago, like a guy that is that talented. And then you move on to him beating Caleb Fish. Like you said, Fish is ranked 8th in the country, beating Buell from Purdue, who kind of gave it to him in the duel 3-4 weeks ago. And I think the big message with Chris is Chris, you have to go out and you have to try and control the match. You have to dictate what's going on. You have to be the one that's moving the guy, having making the hand fight happen and taking it to the guy. And if that guy in particular, Stoney, like he did in the duel, if he starts taking control of the hand fight, you got to take it back. If he starts taking more shots, you got to take it back, and you got to start taking more shots than him. And Chris really responded to that message and did a great job in beating Fish and that kid back to back, getting himself into the Conci semis was great.
Yeah, I saw in Caleb Fish a very, very aggressive Chris Moore, who's not only aggressive on offense, but also aggressive on defense. If you get in on him, I mean, he might pancake you, he might whip you over. He headlocked Fish, and that's the danger of Chris Moore. His defense is solid. He's very quick, but he might also put you on your back. And that's what happened in the Fish match. And he had a bad, I'm not going to say bad, but he had a freshman first year in the Big Ten during the dual season, but he never lost his aggressiveness. And I think that paid off in the end.
He came to compete. He showed up this past weekend to bring it, and he did a great job. And especially as a true freshman. And Brian, you brought up Danny Pucino, just more and more giving himself more evidence that he belongs. Like, why would Chris Moore think he belongs? And same as 41, 65 was arguably one of, the next maybe toughest weight. And where Chris got that belief or got that confidence, you never know where it stems from, but you got to do the action part. You got to actually perform, and he did an unbelievable job. It cannot be said enough for Chris, the season he had to take 6th in that bracket. It's the same as Pucino. Chris Moore always wants more. He want like sixth place is In his mind, if he's not leaving a tournament taking first place, there's a big time disappointment inside him. There's some hurt, but for him, just true freshman, that a weight that's that tough to take sixth place, that was nice. That was a good job. That was pretty incredible.
Well, two things came out of that, Coach. You're a great marketing guy, right? Wants more, right? Chris wants more. We might have to coin that, right?
I almost like stopped lost my train of thought in the middle of that as I said it. I caught that too, Brian.
But I'll tell you where it stems from, Coach. It stems right, who we're talking to and the belief in these kids that you have and the things that you do because you talk about mental mindset. You talk about these things, and it showed with some of those individuals this weekend, not only in wins but in losses. So I mean, you know, don't take a back seat. You guys are doing great mental things, and if you feel comfortable, let's talk about it for a second. But that's a big approach for you in Illinois, right? That's what you believe in, the mental mindset part of it as well.
I mean, it's enormous. It's not always who's the better wrestler, even though you want to be the better wrestler. You want that on your side, but it's not about who's the better wrestler. It's about who's more mentally ready. And especially at this time in the season, it's late. And I hate even saying it like in this way that these thoughts even cross your mind at all. But you've been going for 6 months now. A lot of these guys are just ready to be done. And it's who's going to hang in there and be the mentally toughest, the most mentally ready for these 2 weekends that they're going to remember for the rest of their life. Where this is the point of the season where everybody's banged up. They have 2, 3, 4 things that are really bothering them physically in their body. The grass is a little bit greener on the other side of not training twice a day anymore. And they've been doing it for 6 months and not having to make weight anymore. So right now, it's what's between your ears is going to win matches more than who is the better wrestler technically walking out there. That doesn't even, who's the better wrestler doesn't even matter anymore. Who's going to be the toughest? Who's going to get themselves up, warm up hard, and go out there for a hard match after a 4-month grinding season, a couple-month preseason. So we do a lot of visualization. I've talked about this a lot. Of people have seen it, but a lot of visualization, a lot of meditation, and we do a lot of things where they've seen themselves win these matches a lot already before they even go out there. Chris Moore has seen himself beat Caleb Fish 50 times in his head over the last month or so. The amount of visualization stuff we've done, the mindfulness stuff, the meditation, it brings you just to a kind of a normal level of anxiety. It doesn't go too high. And what was funny is the Big Ten put out a little clip of us doing that kind of stuff, doing the mental stuff. And someone made fun of me in the comments. And it was like right away, it was like, look at this. It was like something like, look at this idiot. He said it's cutting edge because they do it consistently. And yeah, it is. Whoever you are and everybody, it is cutting edge because we do it consistently because I don't think the other coaches buy into it as much. And so I think it's a fad of, okay, we're not doing well. What should we do? Okay, meditate, did it for 3 weeks, not working. Okay, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. I do not think anybody is as committed to doing it consistently and all the time and long-term like we are. And that's the only way to have success with the mental stuff. You're never going to change it in 3 weeks. You are going to have to do it consistently for months after months. It could be years before you fully see the effects of it, but nobody believes in it and buys into it more than I do. And I know how important it is. And I know that, I know that if I had someone that bought into it this much, guiding me and helping me while I was going through my wrestling career, I know I would have been significantly better. That is, nobody will convince me differently. I had coaches that were trying so hard and doing the best that they possibly could to make me as good of a wrestler person as possible. But I do think if there was someone that had this approach that we're talking about right now with visualization and meditation, I think I would have been to new heights, to a different level. So I want to bring that to my guys. So it is cutting edge because we will never give up on it. And I think it's given up on by 99% of anybody else that would go down this route.
Mike, I'm gonna be a one step bigger marketing guy. I got something for you. Once More, Mental Mindset by Mike Poeta. Once More Mindset. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. It's right there. It's perfect. Once more. I love it, man. See how this thing rolls together? But
Well,
we're
I'm upset with your mindfulness because you weren't truly listening to everything I said if that was on your mind, because you can only focus on one thing at a time. So I want your full attention, Swab.
okay.
Well,
So
what he's doing, what Brian is doing is he's wanting you to hire a ghostwriter, write a book, get on the YouTube, and start marketing this thing. So that's what Brian's up to. Watch out.
oh, Coach, we touched on the Big Ten. You're going to roll into the NCAA tournament, but we always have a few surprises from you. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your son who took third in the IKWF tournament with the bleach blonde hair, and how proud of you are. And then we're going to give you a little story we talked about it a little bit with Isaiah about where it started, but coach couldn't be there. I know it was difficult. You were there with your team, but how much did it mean to you to see your boy out there in the IKWF singlet making his marks just like you did as a young boy?
I don't communicate well enough. I don't have the words to truly show how I felt on the inside. Um, One, his second match was going on. I was watching it on Rockfin. We were at the arena. It was on Friday, getting weight off. And I was mother effing the ref so bad and trying to figure out what was going on because he got an escape and like the point wasn't on the scoreboard. But when he got the takedown to win the match at the end, I mean, I screamed, I swore. It was amazing seeing that. So now he gets to the quarterfinals. And one with my son, he has worked so incredibly hard. He goes to multiple practices a day. He goes to practice 5, 6 times a week. He has worked so hard, and he had a dream, he had a goal, and he did everything to try and accomplish that. And last year at the state tournament, he lost the match to place. So now he's wrestling in the quarterfinals, and this could be one of those This is a match where you obviously you win, you place. The pressure's off. You got that done. And that was at night. I was in the hotel room. I'm pacing back and forth, and he ends up winning the match. And I crying is not the correct word. I wept. I wept in my hotel room for 20 minutes. I was so proud of him and so happy for him because I've felt how I knew he felt, and I know how good it is. And I was so happy for him of just the joy he had on the inside. And I accomplishing a goal, and I just didn't want him putting in all that work and then not placing again, and him kind of going, man, was it worth it doing all that? And I just didn't want him discouraged in the sport. And now struggle is important. There has to be struggle in the sport. I just felt like, man, at this moment, this crossroads, him placing will be so much more important right now than not. With the amount of work that he put in. So him winning his quarterfinal match, he's automatically placing, knowing how good he felt. It was one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life. I could not believe how much I cried. Like everybody that I was talking to, I was like, I have to go to the emergency room and get an IV right now. That I cannot believe this right now.
That's awesome, Coach. Appreciate you sharing that with us. Go ahead,
quick
Greg.
story. Quick story about my boy. He was 6 years old. He's wrestling for his first year, and I told myself I wasn't going to mess with what the coaches are doing, right? But he's having some hard times. I teach him an arm drag. This is for his last tournament of the year. He hits that arm drag like 40 times during that tournament, scores each time. Those kids fall for the arm drag just real easy.
Yeah.
But anyways, he comes out a winner. But then the next weekend, he tells me, Dad, I want to play basketball. Oh, no. You just broke through that first barrier. But I tell you what, like you said, Coach, that was the proudest moment of my life. That tournament right there.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, very
For
cool,
such
Mike.
great
Appreciate you
moments.
sharing it with us. But a little touch on the blonde hair. So back in 1986, 98 pounder from Andrew High School, right? Just gets this crazy idea he's going to dye his hair, but that's not enough. So not only does this 98 pounder from Andrew High School who qualified for the state tournament dye his hair, he puts two black thunderbolts in his hair that joins in the back that looks like at the time Brian Bosworth, right? So
Yep.
so the Eric Schultz and Tom Blaha, both Illinois great wrestlers, high school wrestlers, um, coin it the Swazworth, right? And so Hector Gomez swears that I am the first person to ever dye their hair at the state tournament. So,
I'm honored to be talking to that person that
yeah,
started it all.
so
A decade later, it carried over into me, and 2 decades later, my son.
so I wasn't a state champ or a national champ or an all-American, but I have the dyed hair fame, right? So you can blame me for your son on the podium with that bleach blonde hair up there, but it sure looks sweet with that medal around his neck, Coach.
It did, and he was so happy. His smile was amazing. Seeing that and how happy he was. So it was great seeing all that. So did you mention with the dye Eric Schultz?
Yeah,
Did you? Okay.
so Eric Schultz and Tom Blaha went to Tinley Park. I went to
Hmm.
Tinley Park, Andrew.
Yep.
And even though we all kind of lived in the same area, they put the border on there. But yeah, Eric Schultz. You got a story for us, Coach?
Well, so I coached Eric Jr. in high school
Yeah.
for a couple of years. He was running out of training partners in Tinley Park. He was a beast. He was a monster. And I was running my club up in the Chicago area, and Eric started coming up, and I was wrestling with him a lot. And when he would walk into practice, because he was about 200 pounds, he was one of the strongest wrestlers I've ever felt in my life. And he had a pace on him. And he would walk into practice, and I would kind of look around and be like, damn, I'm the biggest guy here. And know that I had to take him that day. And he put me through a war, but it was amazing kind of building that relationship. Uh, and then watching him have success in college at Nebraska. And here, you know what? I'm gonna get some of the slack off myself. Right? I guess personally, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this right now. Illinois, I got some slack about guys going to other colleges from Illinois. And we absolutely said I've 100% lost out on guys. But the class in Illinois of like was one of the best there had been. Eric Schultz and Real Woods and Austin Gomez. And there's a bunch of other names. Cassiope. I was not a college coach at that time. I mean, I was running a club. I had zero effect on where these kids went to school. So that whole crew, anybody that is mother effing me about it, I was running a wrestling club in Lake Forest when every single one of those guys signed a national letter of intent. But with Eric, so I developed a really good relationship. And sometimes when you're talking to wrestlers, you're not sure if they're hearing it, what they're thinking. Do they think it's good advice, bad advice? And I just remember this one thing in particular. I'm telling Eric a Jay Robinson story that I've heard Jay tell, and it's about the California gold rush in the 1800s, and the guy that buys land out there. He's digging, and he strikes a small little a nice little find, and that encourages him to keep digging. And he ends up just not making money. He has to sell his farm or whatever it is, and because he gets discouraged and he doesn't think that he's ever gonna make it, ever gonna find a true gold that's gonna make him rich. He sells it off, and the new guy that comes in, he digs 3 feet and has like one of the biggest finds of all time, and is a multimillionaire. And the kind of the point of the story is just you never know how close you are, like never give up. And I'm telling Eric that story, and it's about like for relating it to wrestling. You never know if you're one shot away from finding gold. You never know if you're one shot away from breaking the guy. You never know if you're one snap away. You never know if you're one breakdown away. That's why you can't ever like succumb and stop wrestling. You always have to keep trying the next thing, because that one next thing might be the thing that wins you the match. So I'm like, I'm telling Eric this story, and the way he's looking at me, I'm in the back of my mind going, this kid thinks I'm the biggest idiot ever. And I'm like, he's not listening to anything I'm saying. He's like thinking Coach Poeta is so stupid. But then like a year later, Eric has like a really big win. And Eric Sr. comes up to me and says, I don't know what you told Eric that one time, but like it has like propelled him to another level. And I start laughing. I'm going, I thought he was thinking I was the biggest idiot ever while I was saying this. So just some of the things that you say to the kids, and you do not realize how much of an impact it could have on them. But Eric Sr. was such a good guy. Eric Jr., it was amazing coaching him. So you bringing up the name, I just wanted to share more on it.
No,
Well,
that's
Coach,
fantastic.
Coach, before I want to make sure we talk about your guy in Ohio, Ryan Bennett. I know you can talk about him now. He's signed up. He did some great things between the last time we talked to you and today. And one of those great things was winning Ohio State Championship, his second. This guy put state champs on their backs. Is that what you're looking for, Coach?
Well, yeah, I want pinners. Absolutely. I'm all for that. It was I was really happy to see Ryan win another state title, and it wasn't a state title given to him. He was wrestling one of the best guys in the country, like one of the best guys it was not only Ohio but best guy in the country, and I was really happy for him. He wrestles his heart out. The coaches, we FaceTimed him immediately after while we were still at Maryland in the gym. So we're really excited about a guy we're getting. We know he's going to really help us.
Yeah, with guys like Jaden Colin, Anthony Ruzick, you got pinners. They're coming in and they want to pin people, and that's going to be helping you in duels and in national tournaments.
Absolutely. I mean, we're really loading up right now. I'm excited
Hey,
about
Coach,
that.
we know next week's a tight week, so probably skip a week if you're okay with that. If not, we'd love to have you on, but I know you're in a tight window, so maybe we'll grab JB or grab someone else and go back to 3 as 2. We'll let you decide that, but this is your show. We love having you on. You always have such good insight, but you got your work cut out for you, and you got to get going. You got that NCAA tournament in Kansas City, so we don't want to keep you too long.
We're excited for it. We got an hour and 20. We got the qualifiers coming in for a practice.
Okay. Well, great, Coach. Always a pleasure having you on the Coach's Corner with Mike Poeta, Greg German, and myself. We're going to sign off here just under 40 minutes, but man, the stories were in depth. We're looking forward to a great showing at the NCAA tournament, and we're going to do whatever we can to make sure Edmond Ruth in the top 4 seeds there. We're going to do our due diligence. We're going to start getting
It
on the
doesn't.
boat.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We know how capable Edmond is. He can beat anybody.
But there you go. Well, thanks, Mike. You have a great day, and guys, we'll see you later, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, Coach.
All right, you
Take
guys
care,
too.
Coach.
Take care.
Yeah. Talk about how you taught Edmond his dance moves, and talk about the dyed blonde hair third place finisher at the IKWF tournament.
Sure,
Hey,
appreciate
we
that.
gotta have a few surprises for you, Coach.
He did good. He did really good.
Yeah, he did, and he looked the part.
Yeah, really proud of him. Really happy.
He looked like a little Poeta.
I
He
know,
looked
did
like a
so
little
cool.
you.
There's no way I would have had the courage to do the blonde hair without having seen it before. So I don't know who started that in like the 90s, but I did it.